Hello and welcome to the Running Channel podcast this week with just me, Sarah Hartley, and Rick Kelsey. Andy's skiving off.
How are we going to survive? But then I was thinking, is he skiving off or is he upset by the fact that we told him the other week that we have one thing in common?
Which is?
None of us have an Olympic medal.
Hey, Andy, come back. Look, we're really sorry. However, for this week, it's actually quite good that Andy's not here because later on his seat will be filled by Dr Josie Perry, who is an incredible sports psychologist. Coincidentally, I've actually been speaking to her recently because we all know that I have been struggling a little bit with my mentality in races.
Right.
So I've been diving into some psychology stuff with her, which I'm sure Rick is very eager to hear. What
are we going to
about.
find? I mean, I'm intrigued, but also a bit worried.
Yeah, I did ask Rick before we started recording. I was like, have you watched High School Musical?
I have.
And I was like, good, okay, that's going to come up later.
Uh-oh. Let's get into it. Can I just say, this is a complete coincidence.
Yeah.
So Owen and I had a little meeting without you and Andy about 2 weeks ago.
Are you staging a coup?
Yeah, we were staging a coup. Yeah, we had the army on the phone.
Did you sat around a little table,
yeah.
You know, in like the cabinet war rooms when you're just moving.
Big red button in the corner.
You're just trying to work out how we just have one seat for you.
And we said, what we'd like to do is kind of create a meet style podcast feel in more of our podcasts so that we bring in some guests. And we thought, well, Josie Perry would be a great person to come and talk about the psychology of running, not just pro running, but also amateur running and how you come up against when you hit the wall and also motivation to get out and try and bring in people's questions. And then we told you that we had agreed for Dr. Josie Perry to come in.
Yeah.
And you said...
Great, I've been speaking to her for a couple of months.
In the meantime, Owen and I had been going through the phone book.
Scouring the internet for how to get in contact with her.
If anyone's old enough to remember the yellow pages.
Do you just want her email?
Yeah. So
before we speak to her though, how's your week of running been?
I ran 3 times last week.
Whoa!
Yes.
Why did that happen?
Well,
did you go to the gym? Because we all know the Rick Kelsey rule of running.
Yes, you do.
For every run,
you go to
so did you go to the gym 3 times?
I went to the gym twice, so I'm in debt.
You're in debt one gym session.
So I'm in debt. So yeah, I'm in the red. No, it's because of our chat last week when we were talking about the different types of running.
Did you do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
I did fartlek.
Oh!
I did some speed work.
Nice.
And I now understand how a fartlek is completely erratic.
You look traumatized.
Well, no, I do because I've been pretty nailed on with my intervals.
Yeah.
I'm quite good. I'm committed to structure. It goes in my diary and I'm committed to it.
Yeah.
But fartlek, obviously you're doing 1 minute fast, 2 minutes slow, 1 minute fast, 2 minutes slow.
Did you decide what you were going to do before you started?
Yeah.
So
we set out, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, we set out kind of beginner, intermediate and advanced levels of fartlek running. So, which is far more easygoing is the best way to describe it compared to doing interval training. So I did what you said. I set trees running around the lake and I went, right, I'm going to go fast until then. I'm going to slow down, go fast until then. It is such a more enjoyable way of doing intervals.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, nice.
But I don't feel like many people do it very often.
No, and you know what? I feel like you can actually combine it into an interval session as well. Like it teaches you a really useful skill of that kind of willpower or the diligence to be able to go, okay, I am going to speed up now, or okay, I am going to hold back a little bit. So I did this week, I went out with my running club and they were all preparing for 3K relays. So each leg is 3 kilometers. I unfortunately couldn't make the relays, which I'm gutted about because it sounds so fun. So I kind of hopped in on their taper session. Well, we're doing some very exciting filming in Bristol.
Ah, right. A valid excuse.
So unfortunately I'm there, I'm not doing the relays, but I am excited for the filming in Bristol. So I jumped in on their kind of taper session and did 4 lots of 1200 meters. So a bit of a like 5K session. And you know, when you just have absolutely no energy, I think it was the first day where it was like a bit drizzly, it was a bit cold, and that just really dampened my mood.
Is this a psychological thing? Sarah?
Yeah, I think so. This is what I want to talk about. I just had no...
Yeah.
I think because I don't have a goal at the moment, I just get into a session.
Why haven't you got a goal at the moment?
I need to set one. But
do you think you always need to have a goal?
I think so, because I need that, like, I feel like I need to be like pointed in a direction towards something to be able to go. But what I ended up doing is everyone on Strava was very much enjoying how the route that I did was a triangle, because we went to the UK's first roundabout. Very
Milton
fun
Keynes.
location. No, Letchworth. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. UK's
Great
first
kids play
roundabout.
park in
And we were
Letchworth.
just doing a little triangle round there. So what I did is I ended up running at the same time as another guy from my running club, and he was ahead of me on two sides of this triangle, and then every single time the last section of it was uphill.
Hang on, how old's this roundabout?
I can't remember.
Is it really old?
1950s. It's really old.
Sorry, Karen.
But every single time the last section of this 1200 meter route
Yeah.
was uphill. So every single time I was like, right, okay, my pace is dropping. This is probably a 5k session. I'm nowhere near 5k pace, but I'll sprint the last section up to the cone, up this hill, and then be done with it. And actually, so what it turned out probably to be a bit more of a fartlek rather than like a consistent 1200, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
So will you be doing fartleks again?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
They're more fun than intervals. I couldn't stop thinking about that roundabout, because when Chantal first moved to the UK, she didn't drive.
What? Oh, really?
And she didn't drive because she couldn't drive a manual car, and we had a manual car.
Right.
And B, because she was scared of roundabouts, because she didn't have roundabouts growing up.
To be fair, roundabouts are dumb.
Do you think?
You know what I mean? When you've driven in countries where they don't have roundabouts, like I went to America earlier this year and drove. One, the fact that you can turn, what is it in America? You can turn right on a red.
Yeah.
Makes so much sense.
You can do that in Canada as well, yeah.
Two, roundabouts really don't make that much sense. And do you know why?
They keep the flow of traffic going.
I'm not sure they do, because the hesitation levels of people at roundabouts in the UK is either people are just going when they shouldn't go, or people are waiting until like midnight when there are no cars on the road to then exit their lane.
I see what you mean. They just actually built the world's first underwater roundabout in the Faroe Islands.
Are you joking?
No.
What, so the fish know where to go?
No, for cars.
Just keep
it's
swimming.
in tunnels. It's in tunnels. It's in tunnels.
Oh, right,
it's in
fine.
tunnels.
Sorry, I'm literally just imagining a little shark
Sorry.
into a roundabout.
It's in a road tunnel. It's in a road tunnel.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know what? When I was a kid, before I went on the Eurotunnel for the first time, I was like buzzing. It's going to be like the aquarium, but longer. And then when we got in and I realised it was concrete,
Just a train.
Gutted.
Just a train.
It's just a train.
You just sit on a train.
Just sit on a train. There's no views.
Yeah.
There's no little fishes.
Back to running. So are you going to book something in?
I think so. I think I need, looking at so we're going to the World Athletics Championships in September. And I think we leave on like the 11th or the 12th of September. So I think before then, I would like to book in a half marathon.
For when we get back?
No, for before. And then because when we go out, it's going to be so hot. It's going to be so hard to train. And to be fair, I'm sure lots of people listening to this will be in the same boat of, this is a really difficult time of year, I find, for running, because it's like all the schools are broken up. Even if you don't have kids, it is kind of like holiday season. Loads of people in the Running Channel office are taking holidays at the moment. And I feel like you're one of two people. I actually quite like training when I'm on holiday, but I like a relaxed, like I'll probably run a bit more, but it will be more easy mileage. So I actually find it quite hard to diligently put in training sessions. But what I am going to do is I'm going to book a half marathon either at the end of August or start of September. So if anyone has any suggestions for in and around the London, Bedfordshire area, let me know.
I think we discussed this last summer, probably kind of podcast 77 or something, about running on holiday, about whether or not you're the type of person who does run on holiday.
Oh yeah, because you're about to go on holiday.
Yeah.
Are you packing your running shoes?
Well, I am. And I saw Joe Wicks did a post about how he does holidays.
Yeah.
And he has this theory that basically you shouldn't come back from a holiday more knackered and more unhealthy than when you started. I mean, I know that's easy to say.
Yeah, because I think it's one of two ways. Do you have a perfect routine when you're not on holiday? You're really diligent, you get all of your training done, then on holiday, that is your time to kind of indulge, relax,
but it is
break
also,
routine. Or do you do it the other way around, where holiday is like perfect reset? You're going to get all of your training in, you're going to eat really well, you're going to relax, you're going to get back on top of sleep, and then you come back to kind of normality, feeling good.
Well, the second one, that was what he was saying. It's like, it's a real time that you can prioritize your sleep.
Yeah.
So if you go away for a week or 10 days or 14 days, whatever it is, because we have so much pressure when we're at home, we've got to get up, we've got to get kids ready, got to get yourself ready, got to get on a train, got to go somewhere. Actually, it just gives you that time to have a couple of extra nights sleep while still going to bed at roughly the same time if you can on holiday.
It's hard though, because sometimes on holiday you just want to be like, you know what, I'm going to get up and watch the sunrise, or I'm going to stay up until the sun. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's loads of people.
I know, but it just made me think about it, as in like, okay, this is maybe a time where you can actually improve your sleep and get out and do exercise, and with the whole family. So I do think that
would be a really good debate, to be fair. Because I am so on the fence with that. On the one hand, when I go on holiday, I literally want to like rip up the rule book and just go wild. On the other hand, I love treating a holiday like a little retreat where you come back and you're like, my body is a temple. I am at peak health. Which is quite hard to do in your regular life when you're running around.
No, I know. I see what you mean. I dread that getting back and feeling more knackered than when you left.
Yeah, but then with young kids,
then you probably,
because you're literally going from no parenting to having to essentially be like the school teacher for you're going away for 2 weeks, aren't you?
This is why I should have studied quantum physics and been able to afford a nanny.
When you said that, I was like, where's he going with this? And build a time machine? Build a quantum realm? Right,
right, yes.
Shall we get Josie Perry in? Let's talk about psychology.
Let's get her in. Josie, thanks so much for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Do you know, my favourite thing in your bio is that you don't just help sports people, both pros and recreational runners, but you also help business stars.
Yep.
Surely that's slightly different.
The techniques for years are identical.
Are they?
Just using them in different environments. So I've worked with helicopter pilots trying to pass helicopter exams in the military, police officers who are trying to pass the police driving test, which is really, really scary. I work a lot in the wine industry. Do you know the hardest exam to pass in the world is the Master Sommelier?
Master Sommelier.
Fewer than 300 people have ever passed. It's such a difficult exam.
Fewer than 300. I know 3 of them.
You must hang out a lot in the wine industry.
This woman who's not had a glass of wine for 6 months as well.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Are you okay? Yeah.
I'm a lot better off it, actually. So work across the board. Lots of CEOs, salespeople, a lot of traders who are trying to figure out how to be able to trade and make better decisions under pressure.
Really?
So it's fascinating, but it's exactly the same techniques. You just shift them into a different sector.
And you've got your favourite client with you as well.
I know a lot of stuff could come out here, but no, I am happy to share. So we've been working together on like my kind of running and racing insights, and I've found it absolutely fascinating because I think a lot of the questions that we actually got in was down to the fact that everyone in running is obsessed with like end goals. Yeah. And I think I definitely am as well. But yet when we get into those really high pressure situations, like all of those other roles as well, you get the fear, and then sometimes that stops you achieving the goal, and then you just end up in this kind of ridiculous cycle of wanting something, not quite getting it, then being frustrated, then not knowing what to do, then being a little bit more fearful. So when you start working with people, what's the kind of first thing that you're looking to do?
I guess I'm really looking to understand where their focus is. Mm-hmm. So we'll obviously do all the work around goals and what they're trying to achieve, but most people will have goals that have metrics that are very easy to measure. So in running, we have places or we have times.
Yeah.
And PBs come up a lot.
Yeah.
I have failed this season if I don't get a new PB.
Yeah.
Comes up over and over again. And they are very motivational and they make us feel amazing when we've done it. Mm-hmm. But there are certain personality types where having a focus on outcome goals is actually really destructive to the way that you perform. Particularly if you're intelligent, you're going to overthink everything because your brain's job is prediction. So it's trying to predict what might happen to you.
Yeah.
And your brain's job is also your survival. So it's trying to predict all the negatives that could happen to you to try and keep you safe and within your comfort zone. And often you'll find perfectionists go along with that because you're your brain wants to be perfect. And if it can't, it's going to find ways to self-sabotage or to give you excuses or to shut you down in some way.
Which is crazy to think about. And I remember this is like one of the first things you said to me when we started working together. I was like buzzing. I'm a perfectionist, I'm intelligent, but actually that's you would think that means, okay, you can go out and achieve all of these things because you can think it through and you can do it. But actually you have so many things working against you. And actually, if you're not thinking as much, it might be easier to just go out and kind of not be as fearful.
It's a double-edged sword. So I call you guys the VIPs, very intelligent perfectionists. That means...
Just us.
Sarah in particular.
Oh, right.
She's not including you in this.
I didn't know if there's perfectionism hidden there.
What's Andy? What's Andy?
I think Andy would be a VIP.
Okay, all right, let's carry on.
It's good to have a balance of people on a podcast.
I like to clarify points. Carry on.
So, as a VIP, you are going to work so hard. You're going to set a really high bar for yourself and you'll work so hard to get there. But when you get there, you won't go, oh, look at me, aren't I awesome? You'll just go, oh, I should have been better. So you raise the bar. And there's always this gap between kind of where you are and where you think you should be. And that's where you tend to beat yourself up and you don't get the enjoyment you should get from it. So VIPs will go far. You will achieve amazing things, but you don't always notice it in that moment. When you look back on your life, when you're 80 in your rocking chair, then you'll be like, damn it, I was good. But actually in that moment where your feet are at that time, you don't see it because you're still, as soon as you achieve one thing, it's like, right, what's next?
What confuses me with this though, isn't that the problem with a positive mindset, that you believe that you're going to achieve something? So if you say you're going to run from Land's End to John O'Groats and you go, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm determined I can do that. But that's also the problem.
It depends, because if you're running from Land's End to John O'Groats and you've set lots of process goals to do it, you can do process goals all the time. You might not be able to do the outcome goal, particularly when you're doing longer distances and you're doing things where the environment can impact you. There are lots and lots of reasons you might not achieve a goal. And none of it is about, I didn't have a positive enough mindset. There are always going to be external elements that impact it. The harder the thing you're doing, the more of those there are going to be. But when we set process goals for things, so we're thinking about the input to our running rather than the output, that doesn't trigger our threat system in the same way.
So what does that look like? So putting in the process in, we always talk about chunking things.
Yep.
So breaking stuff up. So the process of me being able to run 50 miles in a day. So what I put in and how I fuel my body, would that be a process goal?
Yeah. So what we would do is, if you're thinking about, I want to run 50 miles in a day, you might have an outcome goal for that. I would like to do that in sub 12 hours. You would then break it down into, that's kind of a performance goal. So you'd break it down into, what are the processes? So is that I need to run X pace consistently? Is it I need to fuel by doing this, this and this? Is it the visualization skills I might use beforehand? Is it the pacer I'm going to have with me that can keep me calm and sensible and sane while I'm doing it? And you break it down into actions that are all doable. Then you get a nice dopamine buzz after you've achieved each action, so you feel good. Yes, you'd probably chunk it down. So it's like the first 10 miles, I will do this. This is my goal for this.
Yeah.
So you can see where you're progressing. You might not do the 12-hour 50-mile run because the weather gets horrific, or you get incredibly scared by all the traffic coming past you too fast. There's always going to be reasons why we might not do something, but you will be a lot closer and a lot more likely to achieve it if you've had the right processes in place.
So one of the first sessions that we had together, I had some like 10K races coming up, and I remember you asking me like, okay, what do you want out of this? And straight away I was like, I want this time, or like, I want this pace. And actually for one of them, you were like, okay, let's forget that. Let's focus on an input goal of like, do you just want to work really hard? And I went out, and for the whole run, the only thing I was focusing on is, okay, am I like working hard? I think we said like 8 to 9 out of 10 effort. And I came away from that. Unfortunately, the course was a bit short, but if it had been 10K, that would have been a PB. And I think that's what's really interesting with this, is that it's such a like subtle shift, and the outcome might be exactly the same if like you run that PB that you want, but actually thinking about like, okay, what do you want to be thinking about in that? For a 10K, for me, 45 minutes. Do you want to be stressing about looking down at your watch, thinking about the pace, thinking about, am I going to do it? Which for me just meant that I completely fell apart. Whereas actually thinking, okay, am I working hard? Yes, fine, carry on. Yeah. Completely changed my ability to kind of speed up at the end, or my ability to not completely freak out halfway through because I wasn't sure if I was going to do it or not.
I think the question you can always ask is not what do I want to do in this race? It's who do I want to be in this race? And if I want to be someone who is able to cope with discomfort, if I want to be someone who is able to pick on the person in front of me and choose to overtake them.
Yeah.
I know if I've got a really long race that I'm really nervous about, the person I want to be is just a nice competitor. So one of my goals for those kind of races would be smile and thank every marshal. And actually you get the smiles back. We know smiling helps you improve your performance because it
fake
reduces...
smiles lead to real smiles.
They do. It reduces your perception of effort. So actually going into that race of like, who do I want to be today? Yeah. Do I want to be someone that's just head down and focused and as fast as I can? Fine. Do I want to be someone that's able to deal with the discomfort? Brilliant. Do I want to be the person that's overtaking everyone on hills? Right, that's who I want to be today.
That's me.
But that can be really good because that gives you a focus that isn't, have I failed because all these environmental aspects, or the fact I'm fighting a bug right now, or I've had a really busy week at work, have stopped me achieving 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So you still cross the finish line proud of the way you behaved and the way that you acted on that course.
And I think that as well is the thing that loads of people struggle with, is the things like out of your control. And what Rick was saying about kind of having a pure like positive mental attitude, that's great. But when you do come up against things like weather or loud traffic or things out of your control, do you think having kind of slightly different goals enables you to tackle things that might come up in the race versus like one thing going wrong completely derailing? Like there's a few people in the Running Channel office, or a few of like the community that I've talked to post London Marathon, and for so many people the heat was an incredible factor that completely derailed everything that they worked so hard for. But then there were a few people who I've seen where the heat had no effect, and I wonder if they're potentially the people who maybe had like a bit more mental prep to be like, okay, where's the heat? I can do nothing about it. Let's just go.
This sounds really mean, but one of my favourite things is looking at socials about the week before London. And everyone is panicking about the weather. Whether it's going to rain, it's going to be cold, it's going to be hot. It's almost like it's just that everyone's hobby the week before of like, let's have a panic about the weather.
Yeah. How many weather apps can you download?
Yeah.
Which one are you going to believe?
Yeah.
You cannot do anything about the weather. You can change the kit that you wear depending on what the weather's likely to be. And you can absolutely have made sure you've practiced in all weathers in the build up. So if there's torrential rain one Sunday morning when you wake up for a long run, rather than being like, oh, don't want to do that. In fact, I can think of an elite athlete I've worked with that literally rubs his hands with glee when the weather is horrendous because he's like, excellent, this means I get to practice for what it might be like on race day. And that helps them with such a brilliant mindset of like,
I love that.
And so we can definitely do things in advance that mean the things we might worry about, we've prepared for. We call it what if planning, and we'll have like a, how do we prevent it happening, but how do we handle it if it does? But what we really, really want to do is just focus on what we can control. So it's probably the cheesiest phrase used in sports psychology of control the controllables. But we'll literally do that. We'll do 3 lists. These are the things I can control. These are the things I can influence. These are the things I've got no control over whatsoever. And we will find our brain goes to that, all the things we've got no control over. And our job is to realise I'm wasting energy on something I can't control. What can I control? Okay, I'll get my kit ready again. Or I'll do some extra stretching. Or I'll check the route and I'll plan where I'm chunking things down. So it's always, where can I control stuff? I'll do that instead.
And if someone has a really aggressive time goal and something like the weather is probably going to affect that. How do you, because I think for like elite athletes, there's at least that level of like, well, the weather's going to affect everyone, it's out of our control, but I can still be like relatively competitive. Whereas if it is like, okay, I need perfect conditions in order to achieve this thing that I want, how do you go about tackling that when you kind of can't move the race and you can't change the weather?
That one is really hard. And there's something particular about marathons where everyone has the sub 2:30, sub 3, sub 4.
Hey, Josie, do you know what my trick is for this day?
Go on.
Just screw all the big targets. Go for 5 past something. So
Rick tried to get a 2:05 half marathon.
So I was like, what are you going for? 2:05? Because no one's going for 2:05. And when I do a marathon next year, big news, 4:05.
Is that what you're going to go for?
4:05.
Oh, that is a podcast exclusive.
So then everyone will be like, sprinting, can we go under 4 hours? There'll be a massive pack of people. Yep. And then there'll just be wasteland, be like and then a desert in Nevada.
But then if it is really hot and that might jeopardise the 4:05, what should Rick do?
I'll go for 4:10.
So there are a few
weirdos who go for this.
Yeah. That will have certain times in mind to try and get qualifying for something. And that is not going to impact. That's not going to change. You can't change the world ranking that you have to. No. It was a hot day. Yeah. So for them, sometimes actually we would say, don't do that race. Go and find the one where you can do that, because if you exhaust your legs on this, you haven't got anything to do another one in 3 weeks' time. But they're elites, they're professionals, that's their career.
Yeah.
For the rest of us, it's about looking at the environment and going, well, what's possible? And actually, a lot of the elite coaches that I talk to say they have stopped setting time goals for their athletes because often it will hold them back. And there's a really lovely story from cycling when the World Championships were up in Yorkshire, I think 2019, where Chloe Dygert took off her power meter the night before. The power meter. So it's the
like cycling equivalent of a running watch. How much power is going through the pedal?
Yeah, it's a special machine that goes through your pedals and it will show up on a screen in front of you. And so if you're doing something like a time trial, you might have said, I want to do 250 watts the whole way through. And it helps keep you focused and on target. And you will have worked out with your coach what you need to be focused on in order to get the outcome that you would want. She took hers off the night before. She went, I'm going to go on feel. She won by 45 seconds.
Really?
And so sometimes, I mean, I love my watch. I get it. I use it for a lot, but I think sometimes following the data can suck the joy out of what we're doing.
We've got too much data. Like, how many times now when you go running, Sarah, are you just like this constantly?
Yeah, well, I actually now don't look at any stats within a race, not even distance, which I've had some sessions with you where I was like, definitely should have known how far I'd gone at that point in the race.
Is this how you screwed up your stop when I've run a marathon? By so much?
Yeah, really.
What did you do, about 10K?
I did 25.
Oh, right, 25.
So not quite that close. But yeah, I think it's so interesting because I love the data and I love doing different sessions, but actually if I think about it, if I look at other people when they have like a set session to do, quite often I'll see on Strava they're saying like today I needed to do 6 by a mile at 7-minute miling or whatever, and then they put their actual times and they're all like faster than that, and I've never done a session like that.
Me neither.
But then I think is that like how some people operate, and they just run it all by feel and then they've gone a bit faster, great. Or like I think I always use whatever stats I want to hit as a ceiling. Like I've never set a time goal in a race and exceeded it. I'm always like just edging towards it.
I mean, that might be some of the perfectionism that you're setting really high goals. Mm-hmm. My coach gives me no fail training.
Oh, really?
I love. Because it's all on effort. So if it's on effort, you can't fail.
So you get yourself
because
out the door.
It's the effort you've got that day. So it's more likely to get me out the door because there's not oh goodness, what if I fail? That's embarrassing. I've let myself down. I'm never going to make it. And all those thoughts that go through your head. Yeah. It's just, so last night I had 5 sets of 5 minutes hard. Like, well, I can do that. I mean, it might not be as fast as it might be on a day when I haven't been working all day. Mm-hmm. But it's my hardest effort that I can give at that time. And I came home buzzing because I was like,
That's so good. If only the same principle worked for no-fail Gavi drinking, and you could just like drink as much Gavi as you wanted.
I mean, if anyone's going to work that out, that would be you.
Yeah, should we do some questions?
Yeah, let's do some questions.
Okay, so Kieran McBride has a question about the wall, Josie.
Right.
How do you get past that mental wall in your head that says you can't go on? Yesterday, when I slowed down at a water stop, I couldn't get back on pace. And at that point, my head went and I thought I'll never manage to get it back. At the very end, though, I managed to sprint finish with another runner pushing me on with support. So I figured out I might have had that in me the whole time, but didn't have the positive mindset.
So there is a lovely statistic around, I think about 130, 140 years ago, when they started studying sports kind of within science in universities. They thought that we would take in fuel to our bodies, and we were quite mechanical, and that fuel would travel around our bodies to the places we needed it. Mm-hmm. And when we'd used up all that energy, we stopped, we fell over. Obviously, sports science developed a lot in the last 140 years. And now we can actually test how much people still have inside them when we get to that point of, I can't do this anymore. So you're doing one of those treadmill tests at the gym, and it's like you are running until collapse, and you press that big red button of now I must stop. They can actually do a biopsy of your muscles and see how much energy is left in the muscles.
A biopsy of your muscles?
Yeah.
What, so they take a bit out?
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. It sounds very, very painful.
It's in a lab.
So, yeah,
you're not going to find that at your local
gym session for their biopsy.
Yeah. Sure, it's done with a very thin needle.
Yeah.
They know you've got about 30% of energy left in your muscles at that moment when there is nothing left. Our brains are designed not to let us use that. So our brains are designed to keep that for when we really, really need it.
Okay.
There are some athletes that seem to override it. Like the Brownlee brothers always spring to mind for me of like, they are able to override that very, very well. But I find a lot of the athletes I work with like that knowledge that even when their body says, I can't do this anymore.
You've got 30%.
You've got 30% left.
My gosh, I feel like I've just had a zing moment. Do you?
I feel like Rick has 40% left when he says he can't go.
45.
Yeah. We did a park run the other week, and I was like, "You've so got more," because you are the king of the sprint finish, and I think that's probably a good indicator of like, start. Do you feel like in an interval session we always say like you should feel like you could do one more rep, but then and not every week, but every now and then you should like if you want to race hard, try and see if you can perfectly get to the line. And I was talking to you about the like stamina stat on your watch, because there was one 10k race that I did, and I came to you and I was like, well, I was purely going off stamina because I find that like more of a comforting metric to look at. Yeah. And it said I had 30% at the end. There you go. And you were like, yeah, that's probably right.
I think that is such a knowledge is power moment that when you think mentally there's nothing, there is.
Yeah. And then we use that to be able to get through the wall or to motivate ourselves. So the research, there's a psychobiological approach from a brilliant researcher called Samuel Marcora, who's over in Italy. And he talks about to get that extra 30% out of yourself, you first need to motivate yourself, but you will always max out motivation at some point. So I could say to you, I will give you £1 million if you go sub 4 in that marathon next year, right? Unless you're already a millionaire, I reckon that would probably be enough to do it. But me giving you £2 million...
Rick's interested.
I don't have $1 million to give you, I'm afraid. Unless you had 2 million... Unless I was going to give you double that.
Let's not really push our book at the end of this.
You're going to max out motivation at some point. £2 million is not going to get you any closer under that sub 4. There'll be a point at which we've maxed our motivation. And at that point, it's all about perception of effort. We need to trick our brain into thinking what we're doing is not as hard as it is. And that's why things like smiling can help. Caffeine is really good for that. Running with other people, having mental tricks that you're using. Lots of people use things like counting.
Caffeine?
Yeah.
Because Sarah never used to drink caffeine because it used to make her go doulale. But you're on it now, aren't you? Not
really. I can have a cup of tea, but I'm still not there with a caffeine gel. One day.
Well, so just caffeine throughout the race?
It's using it makes what you're doing feel a little bit easier in your brain. It blocks a certain chemical called adenosine, which is something that might slow us down. So it helps physically, but it also makes you more alert. It makes it feel a bit easier. And that's what we're trying to do, reduce perception of effort.
Interesting. Can we also talk about as well, because I think this would tie in, I asked Rick earlier whether he'd watched High School Musical, and he has, so this is probably a good time to talk about it. Can we talk about because at the point where people feel like they might have hit the wall, they'll probably have those like voices in their head saying they can't do it. So can you touch a little bit on the like different personalities that we've talked about and kind of how they might come into play?
Yes, I'll explain the background bit to it.
Yeah.
The idea being there are 3 key functions of your brain if you're trying to do anything at a high level. There's a habit function, which you want probably about 90% of what you're doing to be habitual. So you don't have to think about it or use up energy. You just do it over and over again. There's your logic function, which comes from the prefrontal cortex part of your brain, where you make really good decisions. And if you just had habit and logic, life would be lovely. And we would all be able to go into races and race to the level of our potential and our training and our fitness. Mm-hmm. However, your brain's not designed for you to be a runner. Our brains are designed for our survival. And so we have a threat function. And that threat function is constantly looking out for things that could harm us. And we have physical threats. Running's pretty safe. We don't have many of those. We have psychological threats. We have a lot of those, particularly when data's involved. What if I'm not fast enough? What if I'm beaten by Gracie? What if I'm judged? What if I don't get a PB? And then we have physiological threats like, oh, my tummy feels like it's all over the place or my heart's going too fast. What we're trying to do is almost characterize that little voice that is telling us all of those threats, because the threats are trying to keep us in our comfort zone. They don't want us to push ourselves hard. They don't want us to feel uncomfortable. They want us to feel as safe and as comfortable as possible. And so rather than listening to them and not achieving our goals, we want to characterize them so that we can get a little bit of separation. So I have Lazy Larry. Lazy Larry shows up about 6K into a 10K race. I did the London 10K on Sunday. He showed up big time. So there's Lazy Larry in my head saying, you can't do this. Why don't you slow down? It doesn't matter if you're slow, take it easy. Don't push it too much. And you want to be able to learn how to talk to that differently, not to shut it up or ignore it, because it won't. Very loud. Its job is to stop you, but how to soothe it and to calm it and to make it feel safe. And so when I'm working with an athlete, we always name that little character so we can start to get some separation. So it's not me, it's Lazy Larry. Lazy Larry is telling me to slow down. I don't want to slow down. I want to be faster.
So how do you ignore Lazy Larry?
You don't.
Do you want to know what mine is?
Snarky.
No, that's me. Mine is, we identified Sharpay Evans from High School Musical. Yeah. So if you haven't watched High School Musical, she is the most like dramatic, kind of over the top drama queen style person. And I think it's so true because you asked me to write down when those thoughts come in, what are they saying? And I did it on a really hilly 10K race, and the only thought that was going through my head was like, I'm gonna die. And you were like, that's quite dramatic. And I was like, yeah, I wasn't anywhere close. And I did an interval session last night, and she was there. Sharpay came out, and I didn't know if this was a useful way of going through it, but I imagined that I was driving a car and she was sat in the passenger seat.
Brilliant.
And it was as we were going like uphill and I was trying to overtake someone else, and I overtook them, but there was still a good like 200 meters to go of the rep. And all I could imagine was her sitting in the passenger seat going like, we're going to die. Like, you can't do it. This is terrible. And then I was just smoothly driving the car.
But the trick there then, Josie, is not that Sarah should not be ignoring that.
No, you don't ignore it. You learn to sit alongside it. And that's why this stuff works across every sector of life, because when you develop the skills not to ignore the unhelpful thoughts, but to notice them and know why you're having them, but to choose to be brave and do what you need to do anyway, you can get on with life. Yeah. You're always going to have unhelpful thoughts pipe up. But if you try and get rid of the unhelpful thought, you're just going to get another one pipe up over here. Whereas if you reassign all those thoughts to Sharpay and go like, she's telling me this, you get some distance between you and the thought, and you get to replace it with facts. It's only 200 more meters. I can do 200 meters. I've run 200 meters hundreds of times.
So you talk to the fact.
You give it facts. And the most important bit, though, is you then focus on your values. So why am I doing this? And why does it matter to me to override Sharpay and the things she's saying to me?
So this question is kind of a development of what's going on in Sarah's head, actually. So John Scales has asked, do you have any tips for someone who's had a few major surgeries on their lower leg to trust that leg again and push on further? Now, as a bit of context to John's question, John's been doing the rehab, he's been doing the work, so he should be able to trust the leg. And I've talked a little bit about this in my injuries in the past. And
Rick had an osteotomy. He never talks about it.
You know, I've never mentioned it before once. So you get yourself to a position where your body is physically strong enough, but your brain is not there.
The hardest thing is fear of re-injury. Because the first time you're injured, you don't really know what that process is going to be like to come back. So you kind of go into it quite naively and kind of, this will be all right, we'll get back. But then you come back and you've always got that little part of your brain. That's the physiology kind of threat showing up of like, what if this happens again? So exactly a year ago, I tore my calf muscle. I literally heard it ping whilst running. Ooh. And it was actually only 6 weeks out, but still now...
You worry about it.
My brain goes to when I start running of like, how is it?
Is that?
No, it's probably stronger because I was actually really good at doing my physio and I had a brilliant physio and I did all the rehab. So actually the rehab was done to make it stronger so that it wouldn't happen again. But your brain is just desperate to protect you and it doesn't want you to go through another process of recovery. So that physiological threat that your threat system is constantly scanning for is going to go there and it's going to be really conscious of it. So we spend a lot of time on doing the rehab really, really well so that you've got that to draw upon. But again, you would talk to I call it the safety seeker, that little safety seeker in your head. And you might well have an injury-based one. Kids will often have just one safety seeker. As adults, we might well have 2 or 3 because they're coming from different parts of our lives, different core beliefs that we've developed as we've grown. And there might well be one that's based on injury. What if you get injured? It's like, but learning to separate and reassign it to that part of my brain is just trying to keep me safe. I have done all the rehab I need to do. And looking at your values. So you might have a value around bravery or a value about effort levels. And it's like, I'm noticing my brain is telling me this. However, it's really important to me that I try. So I'm just going to try. Let's just get on. First step. Let's go for it. So it's very logical the way you're talking to it. But it's a bit like a toddler that you're trying to reassure. So it's not ignoring it. I'm forgetting I ever had that injury. Never want to think about that again. Because you will. Your body, it will show up in there. But it's like, I'm noticing my brain is worried about me getting re-injured. However, I've done all the rehab and you can think through all the rehab you did. And it's like, and I'm going to do it anyway in the service of my values.
So I have a toddler and he just shouts Paw Patrol characters at me all day. But I've stopped listening to the characters, but I can tell he's talking about Paw Patrol. Is that what I do with my knee?
So I genuinely think our threat system is like a toddler.
Right.
So my daughter's 8 now, but I still remember the days where I'd cut up her toast in the wrong shape or I'd put it on a pink plate and she wanted a green plate and you'd be like, where is this coming from? And it was usually that we're hungry, low blood sugar levels, tired, somebody they don't like is around, they're feeling a bit out of control. Oof. It's like that's exactly the same as our threat system.
Yeah.
So one of the things I will do with athletes is working through what are your triggers.
Yeah.
One of the biggest ones is if someone violates your values.
What, like playing loud music?
You might have a value of respect. And if people are playing loud music and stopping you sleep, you might be irrationally annoyed about that.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. My local park run, there's a guy that sometimes cuts corners. Right?
Oh, gosh.
And I don't know why, because he's in a much older age category. We're not running fast. We're not setting any records.
Yeah.
But he still does it. A friend of mine with a very, very high fairness value will be massively irrationally annoyed at this random man cutting the corners.
Yeah.
Because there's no need for it. Whereas I don't have a fairness value. I've grown out of that and life's not fair. So I can laugh at it. But someone with a fairness value will be absolutely fuming that somebody cheats. So it's really helpful to know your values really well. One, because they can help you override the threat system and your safety seeker when it triggers, but also to understand what might trigger your threat system. So if you had respect and somebody is really disrespectful on the start line or elbows you to get past you in a race, you won't be able to think of that rationally. It'll just be utter.
Has anyone ever elbowed you on a start line?
No, but I have seen it happen.
Really?
Yeah, I think if you're like really going, if you're competitively going for something, or
what, bloke on bloke or woman on woman? Just
I think either. It's just
elbows.
like if you are at the front of the pack and like placing is happening. Two questions that are kind of linked but opposites. We had one from Jill and one from Charlie asking. One from Jill, one from Nicola. Jill was asking about comparing yourself to others and how you kind of mentally get over that, and then Nicola on the flip side was asking about overconfidence. So is it possible to be too overconfident, and can that impact performance? And then if you're on the flip side underconfident, comparing yourself for others, how do you get through that?
So I never work with anyone that's overconfident, because they will never think I need to go and see a sports psychologist.
Yeah.
But when I'm working with someone on building up confidence, we're never trying to get someone to 10 out of 10 confidence, because that becomes arrogance. And actually with that, you stop doing all those little things that will make the difference. Yeah. So when I wrote the 10 Pillars of Success, I had a chapter on confidence, and I contacted an athlete called Emma Wiggs. She's a paracanoeist. And I said, can I interview you all about confidence? She's like, why me? I'm not confident. I was like, but you've won a Paralympic gold medal, and I think you've got 10 world titles. How are you not confident? And she went, I don't think of myself as confident. I never sit on the start line and think I'm going to win. And I went, oh, and she went, but I guess I do work harder than anybody else. And I go to the gym more than anybody else. And I eat more cottage cheese than any other athlete has ever eaten. So we renamed it Cultivated Confidence. So you probably want about 9 out of 10 confidence, and you want to know that you deserve that confidence. So it's not an innate trait of like, I can do anything, because actually you can't do anything, and you need to have done a lot of the work to be able to do it at your absolute potential. So it's really about thinking about how to get robust confidence, which comes from having done things before and really, really good preparation.
Yeah.
And so if you can stand on a start line and go, these are the strengths that I've developed, these are the sessions I've done in the build up, this is the evidence I've got that means I think I can do well at this, then that's really good cultivated confidence. And I think that's where we're trying to get people to.
Right. So you're never going for 10 out of 10.
And then if you are comparing yourself to other people, how do you get around that?
That tends to come with it's a form of perfectionism. It's social perfectionism, where you're constantly comparing yourself to others. And there is something I see a lot more in runners than I see in any other sport I work with, and that is having a nemesis. So that is somebody in your running club or in your group, or somebody that you always see at parkrun that's probably quite close to you in times, kind of thing.
Rick's got a few of these at his parkrun.
Yeah. I like them.
Well, that's the thing. It's not that they're awful people. I mean, they might be, but it's not that they're a bad person. It's just that there is something in them that really riles you, and you'd really like to beat them.
Super quick Joe Whip.
Is that the one?
I'm not getting close to him though. Yeah.
And often, because running is so easy to compare, you literally get to look down a sheet of names at the end, and if running is your thing, if you feel like a runner, it's your identity, you get to look down a list of names and go, how good a person am I?
Yeah,
not how good a runner I am, just how good a person I am.
Where do I come? What's my and so many people tie their like whole identity to that as well, and that's so hard.
You see that in jobs as well. I mean, just working in journalism, I know so many people who maybe started out the same time as me, and often in journalism people get to when they're maybe approaching 40 and they go, well, you know what, I've had a run, I'll go into PR now, but journalism has been their identity. So it's almost like it's been their personality. So as much as there is anything else, they're friends with people because that's their personality and that's what they talk about. And then they switch into something else and they feel like they're losing their personality.
So I was in PR, and at 37, I quit. I was director of communications, left that role to go back to uni to retrain as a sports psychologist. I had no idea the impact of losing that identity would have. It feels like the bottom's dropped out of your world because you got so much confidence and self-esteem from the fact that I do this cool job and I get to dress up in these nice clothes and I get to go into an office every day and do X, Y, and Z. And then I was a student. And my husband and all my friends seem to be lawyers or doctors or kind of glamorous sounding jobs. And then suddenly you're like, who am I?
Who am I?
Yeah, really scary. And if you're a runner and that's where you've got a lot of your identity, and every Saturday morning is at park run and every Wednesday night is at your running club, then it's really hard when you look down a list of names and go, oh, I'm not as good as I wanted to be, or I feel like I should be. Or if you
get injured and
you've got to work back and you feel like everybody else is getting ahead while you're stuck where you are. And a lot of runners will say to me they're worried about aging out. And actually they'll say that at 16 or they'll say that at 80. We all worry about aging out. But so it's a really hard thing when you're constantly comparing. What we want you to do to stop doing that so much would be to focus on your own goals and know that you're doing your thing, and that might require some different training, and that might mean you're going to be slower at other things, but you're putting your energy and attention into the thing that really matters to you.
Josie, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I literally could sit and talk about this all day. Thank you so much.
But we have got to talk about your book.
Yes, please.
Because there'll be people watching and listening right now going, get your book on that shelf.
Yeah,
I will post some in. I've actually got 6, but I'll post some in.
What's the most recent book and what's it about?
So the most recent book is called ADHD in Sport. And it was because I realised a lot of the athletes I was working with either had an ADHD diagnosis or they had many traits that would suggest they would get one. So it's really looking at some of the benefits that ADHD can give you as a runner, but also many of the difficulties that will show up with it. And actually one of the runners that's interviewed in the book talks about the snipers that will show up when you're trying to race, say. So you're on a start line and there's music everywhere and there's people and it feels really intense. That's really, really uncomfortable for them. Or you're having a bad day and you have spent all of that energy and effort getting to run club on time, and other people show up late and they seem very bright and breezy about it, and then you've spent all that energy trying to make sure you're there and the discomfort of that. So it's got lots of tools for overall well-being, because particularly with ADHD, there's often eating difficulties that will come along with it. It looks at training and it looks at competitions. And then there's also a section for coaches and a section for if you're a parent or a partner of someone with ADHD, how you can help them scaffold their lives too.
Oh, great.
And also this week, Sarah and I have been breaking down some of our psychological barriers at Parkrun, haven't we?
Yes, we have. If you want to listen to this week's exclusive Running Channel podcast episode on the club, we do more of a deep dive debrief into Hellsfire Parkrun and how badly Rick paced it.
Yeah.
So go and
all completely true. All completely true. Happens every week. That's why I need help.
Does Rick get picked on a lot?
He does.
He does.
But usually he gives it back as well.
Oh, okay.
But look, he's got the confidence to speak about himself in the third person, so it's fine.
And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.